release, quote unquote midnight release. We're going at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
What's midnight? That's not a thing anymore.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, because of all the people getting trampled during the midnight premiere.
Yeah.
They realized all the money they could make by showing it at 7 p.m. versus midnight.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
kidding.
exactly.
There was nothing better in my life than when they changed the midnight showings to 7 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you. My old ass can't stay up that late
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
The last movie I remember going to a midnight release for was Cloverfield.
Whoa.
Oh
Oh
shit.
my god, I can't even remember what the last movie I went to was for midnight show.
I only remember it because it was a blast. I mean, they gave everyone Polaroid cameras, like that was like the
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know why. So everyone's just in the middle of the movie, like they're shoving their Polaroid in your face and hitting the flash button and stuff like that. It was good times.
Yeah. I
Last
want
movie I went. No, go ahead, Regan.
Yeah, I was gonna say I want to say Force Awakens, but I didn't go. I didn't go. I think it was like a 10 o'clock or something.
Yeah, I
wasn't the
was
first
thinking
one.
it was Force Awakens too, but
Yeah.
I think I went to a 7 o'clock on that one too.
Yeah.
I did go to a midnight showing of Force Awakens, but again, that was if you guys have ever worked in the theater industry, there's a thing
Yes.
called keys, and when the keys go active, that's when the movie is active. So the keys went active at 12:01.
See, that
and
must
I was
be-
my butt was in seat.
That must be something after my time because I worked in the theater back when we actually used film.
Yeah, this is a digital thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm probably
Back in
one of.
the
I think
1800s.
there's only 2 people left on the coast. Me and Mike Comstock or Mike Dixon that know how to thread an original movie projector.
Yeah, you also used to have to hold still for your pictures and wait for the fucking flash.
Yeah, 30 seconds. You have to wait 30 seconds.
I had to get your portrait made for 2 hours to have a picture of you.
My baby picture was a painting.
Yeah. No, the last midnight premiere I went to, and the first midnight premiere I went to, I think, was Avengers 2012.
Yikes.
And they showed that all night long from midnight until like 6 in the morning. They had Avengers showings.
Yeah.
What didn't they do before the Infinity War came out? That they did like
A marathon,
a marathon of Marvel movies. Like, God, was there anybody that can sit for that long and watch that many movies?
I have kids, man. That's not a reality for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
I got that diabetes bladder, dude. I can't. fucking-
I got old man bladder. I don't need diabetes. All right, fellas. Well, it is 6:30 on the dot, and I'm gonna start the show. And Jacob, you got an ad read?
Aquaries dropped out as patrons, so we're gonna do BJ's ad read.
We lost a patron.
Uh-oh.
Damn it! There goes half our revenue. Damn it! All right, that's cool. Well, we'll do that, and then I'll play the theme song. We'll come in, introduce ourselves, and we'll introduce you guys, and we'll just go from there. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, you ready, Jacob?
Yep.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
This episode of the Open Micros Podcast is brought to you by that dirty motherfucker BJ DeBlow. He knows what he did. He was gonna start his own podcast, but he was too chicken shit. So let's start our own.
Ooh, that music means it's Wednesday night, and it's time for the Open Micers Podcast. My name is Jason Robbins.
I'm eating soup. I'm Jacob Craig. You want to introduce our guest tonight?
Yes, I do. These are some guys I met earlier this year at Pensacon, which it was at a weird time this year because of COVID. Usually it's in February, but we did it in May, which was close to my birthday, which is memorable because then I got to go to McGuire's in Pensacola to get my birthday dessert, which was freaking awesome. So if you're in Pensacola and you haven't signed up at McGuire's to get your birthday dessert, you should do that. And and if you're not from Pensacola, you should definitely go to Pensacola on your birthday just for the McGuire's dessert. And other than
exclusively for McGuire.
that, we have 2 people from the Fantastic People podcast, which we did my episode during Pensacon, did it live. And we have up first, we have Mr. Regan Bell.
Hello.
And Mr. Christian Jones.
How's it going? Thanks for having us.
Oh yeah, man. It was a really fun podcast I got to do with you guys. We got to talk about Star Wars, and it's always nice to talk about Star Wars with other Star Wars fans and ones who feel like I do as far as the fandom goes.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the fandom has gotten a little, not just Star Wars, but fandom in general has gotten a bit toxic the past few years. So.
A lot of gatekeeping going on.
Yeah. So now that you're on my podcast, and you guys got to ask me what I thought about toxic fandom. Let's start with you guys. Whoever wants to go first. What is your take on toxic fandom and what we can do to fix it?
I think I'll jump in. One thing that doing this podcast for a year, which I mean, for anyone unfamiliar, the concept of Fantastic People is just everyone out there has something they're passionate about, something they love, a way they unwind at the end of the day. We want to talk to people about that thing. And that helps us get to know them and appreciate them, but it also exposes us to new things that Regan and I prior weren't familiar with. So one thing that it's done, I think, is while there is a lot of like ownership and gatekeeping in fandom in general, this is going to sound like ownership and gatekeeping, and I apologize, but I think it's kind of made us experts on fandom, because talking to a variety of different fans of things, we've learned that there are problems that are just generic among all of them.
Yeah.
So gatekeeping, ownership, those are probably the biggest two. And I think ownership is really at the key of all of it. When you think you own the thing that you love, you're going to make a product that other people don't want to be a part of anymore. Star Wars, this is horrible about. You don't have to like the sequel trilogy. You don't have to like the prequels. You don't have to like the OG stuff. But somebody does. And so it deserves to exist. That way we all love Star Wars.
Why do you, Regan, why do you touched on something, Christian, I want to ask Regan, like, why do you think we feel that because we love something like Star Wars or Doctor Who or whatever, why we feel we have ownership over things?
Yeah, I think that, when we experience something, a lot of the times we have a very personal reaction to it and a very personal connection to it. And so I think over time, that causes us to feel this sense of like protection and ownership around the experience that we had. Right. And so it doesn't matter what anybody else feels. It's what I feel and what the experience I had. And so if you start to present something that is different than that, well, that's not the right way. Right. And so then those people are prone to react very protective of that. And well, oh, that's not the right way to do that. Or, oh, that's wrong. Oh, they're changing it, and change is bad.
Yeah.
They're putting too many women in there. Those darn women, Yeah, it's like
females don't exist.
They didn't exist in Star Wars except for, being a princess, and that's it. Right. So I think that's
weird. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, you're good.
This is something I wish we'd have touched on when we were doing the podcast for Fantastic People. Why fanboys? I'll just use the word fanboys. Why? And there's no other way to say it. Why do they hate females so much?
I don't know.
I don't understand.
I don't either. I'm not going to say the group name, but I'm a part of a group on Facebook. I don't know why I'm a part of this group, but it's very much that protective. To changing gender swapping is bad. Adding women, race swapping, like this whole thing. It's like such a negative gatekeeping, protective over the like what it used to be, and it can't be anything different. And it's like really bad in that group. And I was thinking about that today. I'm like, what the heck is the problem? Like, why are we making such it's a fictional character?
Yeah.
It's a fictional character, and we're getting so upset over it being a little bit different than it was when we first discovered this thing. Like, it's a made up thing. It's okay to be different.
Yeah.
Right?
What's so curious too about Star Wars specifically is the character of Leia is not at all really tropey fantasy female character. She is a leader. She is an all, they eventually, we say almost general. I mean, she is the head of the military. She is the head of the rebellion. And even though she gets captured and saved in the first one, which is kind of tropish, but she's got an attitude. I mean, that is a gender breaking character. That is
yeah.
not what women characters were in fantasy films or stories.
That was unheard of at that time in the 70s.
It's Leia and Ripley. I mean, those are...
Before we go any further, I do have something to say about that. First off, Jacob, how's that soup?
It's fucking amazing, dude. You have no idea.
What kind of soup is it?
What kind of soup is it?
It is tomato soup, my all-time favorite.
I love tomato soup. But here's the thing. Back in the 80s when I was a kid, we had a lot of very strong female characters. Like you said, Ripley, Princess Leia. What are some of the other ones from that time? There's a lot of science fiction movies that have strong female characters at the time, and we didn't have a problem with that at the time. Why now are we having such a problem with adding strong female characters to science fiction fantasy?
I have a theory. That I kind of want to bounce off of our guests here, Jason.
Okay.
I feel like there's a group of people out there that these kind of films attract, like Star Wars, Alien, these franchises, where women are maybe, I would say, unattainable to them. And they see women as cruel creatures because they're incels, is basically what I'm trying to say. That's all. That's my opinion.
I think that may have been true. I mean, it's certainly with probably a generation of people, like Reagan's talking about the group he's in. There is an age group that fits that mold. I don't think that's true anymore, which may be why younger people are probably more accepting of those things. And because nerd culture is mainstream. I mean, on our last episode, Steve Weiss was talking about, like, there was a group of people that need to have something that's exclusively theirs. The fact that it's mainstream doesn't work for them.
Yep.
And I think that maybe that's also part of it. I'm not trying to defend these people for being a-holes because they're just jerks, but that's just the way it is.
I started going after people on Twitter the last month or so after the new Masters of the Universe dropped on Netflix. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet. Well,
yeah, I watched it.
Should I try? If you haven't seen it, Regan?
I haven't, but that's okay.
So you don't care if I spoil it, right?
No, you're fine.
If you're listening, spoilers.
Yeah.
He-Man dies in like the first episode. And the whole point of the series is that, Tila kind of becomes the one that everybody goes to try to bring He-Man back from the afterlife. And so the whole series is centered really around her, around Orko, and the other, main characters of the He-Man, the peripheral characters of the He-Man universe, which I think
Masters
is
of
awesome.
the Universe.
Yeah. And they brought He-Man back in the last episode, but then he immediately gets stabbed by Skeletor. And
I loved it so much.
It's like, I was shocked. I was like, holy shit. They brought him back to life just to immediately stab him to death. And it ended on a cliffhanger. And people went batshit online, like going after Kevin Smith. And I'm like, first off, you idiots. Like even Kevin Smith said this, like Mattel went to him to make this series that's called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Do you really think he's allowed to kill off the main character of the toy line they're trying to sell?
Yeah.
Are you that thick? Second of all, do you not, because we live in an era of binge watching, nobody knows what a cliffhanger is anymore. When I was a kid, everything was a cliffhanger. If you were watching DuckTales and it to be continued, you had to wait to the next day or the next week to find out what happens.
Don't even get me started on DuckTales.
But it's like nobody let the story finish out before you form an opinion of it. And it's okay if by the end of it you didn't like it. That's okay. It's okay to not like things. The entire cartoon series from when you were a kid is still there. It's not they didn't Mattel didn't like grab all the DVD and VHS copies of it, destroy them, and then destroy the master tapes. That way you can never watch it again. That's not going to happen. So I just don't understand why people are so upset. And the number and third, it's a cartoon.
Yeah. For children.
It's a cartoon for children.
Yeah.
Hey, never say for children like that ever again. Just do me a favor. Just never do that ever.
Yeah.
Sound like Candyman.
Yeah, I loved the He-Man, the new one, because for that very reason. I thought it was a very fun way to bring those characters back. And the second part of that is it kind of is self-aware, like it makes fun of the old He-Man cartoon and there's always a lesson. I thought they did that really well. But when they doubled down on killing He-Man, I knew it would piss off the internet and therefore became my favorite thing they've ever done. I mean, whatever makes fanboys and the internet mad is that's my joy in life. That's what I want to be a part of.
But there's a thing in your writing called stakes.
Yeah.
Especially when you're writing, an action story, there has to be stakes. And when you actually kill off some of your, Masters of the Universe characters, that just makes it more more emotional, and makes you more invested. Wouldn't it be boring if it was just another remake of, the crappy old anime, what was it called back in the day? What was that animation? Filmation. If they just redid a whole season of old Filmation, it was just bad animation and bad voice acting. That would just be boring. Nobody would want to watch that. They'd be pissed off if they did that. It's just the same thing. It's nothing new. What do you want?
And that's really what made Game of Thrones so popular, because at the end of the first season, they killed the main character. They killed off Ned Stark, and it made everyone realize, oh, no one is safe.
Yeah.
So I have to watch this series on the edge of my seat every single episode, because anyone can die at any moment.
At least for the first 4 seasons, that's true.
Yeah, at least for the first. After that, don't even watch it.
Then the last 2 seasons, we're going to film it so dark you're not going to be able to see anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's we're going to film the biggest fight scene ever filmed
in the dark
with one flashlight. With just a flashlight and a camera. That's it.
But even
Reagan's never watched Game of Thrones. He can't participate in this conversation.
I got nothing.
Wow.
Watch. Come on, man. You got to watch the first 4 seasons.
Yeah, the first 4 seasons rock. It ends crappy, but those first 4 seasons are great.
Yeah.
I even like the 6th season. The 6th season's my favorite season, if I'm being honest. Because the Battle of the Bastards was pretty.
Oh, yeah.
That whole thing. Reagan just ignored this, but that whole thing where it's the Battle of the Bastards starts, and Jon Snow thinks he's alone, and he just draws his sword, and is come on. That was okay, Jon Snow's one of the best characters anyone's ever written.
Well, you thought that at the time.
Thought that at the time. Look.
Aegon Targaryen, for some reason.
Yeah, let's ignore that. Let's say that never even happened. I'm curious, though, what are you guys, because your podcast is built around you interviewing people who are super fans of a thing. So I'm interested to know what things you guys are super fans about.
Reagan, you want to go first?
Oh man, yeah, sure. So of course, Star Wars. Star Wars is my number one, and we could talk about that the whole time. There's plenty to talk about. I would say I don't like admitting this, but I guess I can
My Little Pony.
No. At this point, it's true that I am a super fan. I'm close to a super fan of Power Rangers. Having grown up in the 90s, I always enjoyed it, but recently went on a deep dive. We had an episode of our podcast with a guest that was a super fan of Power Rangers, and kind of got me hooked back into it. So I am power binging. I took a break, but I was power binging. We're basically covering a season a day. A season every 2 days, and that's 30 to 40 episodes.
Mhm.
So I was so the way to do that, you speed it up 2x, and then I figured out the rhythm of like the show. And so I'd fast forward through fight scenes, Zord battles, all the crazy boring repetitive stuff, and just get the meat of the episode, which is like 5 to 7 minutes. And so I would just and so when you cut it
Jesus.
when you cut it to 2x speeds, you're really crushing it in about 2.5 minutes.
He was there for the story. Big fan of the.
Yeah, exactly.
for
It's
our-
just the story, not the. I mean, I will say I got to a point where I was like, oh, I've never seen these seasons, right?
Mm.
Like, basically, after I got out of middle school, I quit watching it, and so once I caught up to that, I have slowed down, but I'm still doing it 2x. The stuff got way more extravagant. The fights got way more extravagant. The Zord battles got way more like crazy and creative, and all kinds of stuff coming into the lore. So I watch more of that as I go, but I can still do about a season in a day and a half to 2 days.
Jesus.
So, yeah, it's a lot.
That's still a lot of TV.
It's a lot. I've taken a break though, because I was getting burnt out. I was like, this is a lot, and there's other things I want to watch. So I'm gonna
Power
probably take it
Rangers has
back
been
a week.
going for like 30 years now. So how many
Yeah.
freaking seasons are there?
So I think I'm on 14, and I've been doing it since. And I wasn't doing it that fast at first, but I've been doing it since. Was it been July? I think. So I'm through to 14, and I think there's like 27 or maybe 28 now. I don't know.
I think we're on 28 now.
I think we're on 28. Yeah.
So how is the Power Rangers fandom? I don't really know too much about it.
It's they're
They seem
something.
pretty calm. You don't hear too much about them.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll say this. Speaking of Pensacon earlier, I went to a there was a panel. It could be loosely called a panel. This guy was doing like some sort of documentary, and I left in the middle of it because it wasn't very good. But the people that were sitting around in the room were very energetic, very they're people, they're quirky. They're your typical quirky, nerdy people.
Who you would expect to be into Power Rangers?
Yeah, probably. So you wouldn't expect me, but yeah, it was. They're nice. The guy that we had on was really great. Very, very. He works in the professional world, so he knows how to adapt. But yeah, that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I've met a lot of the original Power Rangers, and I have to say that like they're used to at this point their fandom, and they are like so nice. I mean, they are some of the nicest people.
Didn't one of the Power Rangers like kill somebody with a samurai sword?
Yes, not one of the original ones, but someone did.
Yeah,
That's hardcore, man. If you're gonna murder somebody, do it in style.
But when you were a Power Ranger, I mean,
Yeah.
you're trained, right? In that
that's
weapon.
that's what you do. Yeah. So I am looking forward to that. That they're coming to Pensacon this year. A lot of the original ones, so that'll be cool.
That's
But,
Oh, who
awesome.
else coming this year?
Oh, God,
Amy Jo Johnson's coming.
JDF.
JDF is coming. What's his name that played Billy?
David
Oh,
Yost.
David Yost.
Yost.
I've met David Yost. He's an absolute delight.
I feel like there's one more, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
I've never got a chance to meet Amy Jo Johnson. Is
Yeah.
she married? Do I have a shot?
I don't know. She's like what, 30 years older than you?
Yeah, I don't care, dude.
We
He
sugar
still
mama.
got it.
We had this discussion on an earlier podcast. There are
Oh,
some
okay.
women that no matter how old they get, it's always gonna go down.
Okay. All right.
Dolly Parton,
Linda
always
Carter.
gonna go down, dude.
Yeah.
Leah Thompson, always
for
gonna
it.
go down.
You,
Oh,
you
yeah.
shoot your shot. But
Isn't
yeah,
it funny
no,
how Leah Thompson because she had the old makeup on her back in Back to the Future, and she actually looks better in person than she did when they put makeup on her to make her look old. I think that's
Yeah,
great.
I still would have done it. I don't
Good
care, dude.
genes.
Yeah.
Very good genes.
But yeah,
Uh,
you mentioned the guest list, dude. The guest list for Pensacon this year
hot.
is insane.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's very good.
Yep. It's gonna be.
And I mean, still plenty of time for more people to get announced.
I
you
know.
know?
And plenty of time for Delta to just kill it all. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to get too excited yet.
Well, we're still a good 5-6 months away. So
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah, we still got some time.
We'll be fine.
What about you,
Um,
Christian? What are you a huge fan of?
It's a big question, bro. Yeah, definitely Star Wars. Gosh, I don't know. I would say probably the big three: Star Wars, Doctor Who, Harry Potter.
And
There's
Lord of the Rings too, man.
Lord of the Rings, anime. I mean, I cover a very wide basis. I have a family and kids, and I probably ignore them more than I should by watching anime and reading Harry Potter books.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, dude, that's what it's all about.
He talks about the things he's reading and watching, and I'm like, dude, you have one more kid than I do. Like, what? How? But it's great when you have a job that you just sit there all day. So
yeah, I have a very feast or famine job. So when it's famine, I'm powering through HP or the latest anime. And
Man, I was having a conversation about anime the other day, and it's kind of like, how do you even get into anime? Like, there's so much of it. Like, I've seen the surface stuff. Like, I've seen Akira, and I watched the first episode of what's the one with the big giant guy with the no skin?
Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan. I was just like, I watched the first episode. I was like, this ain't for me. But like, I like the Americanized anime, like the Castlevania series and stuff like
Dragon
that.
Ball Z, baby.
Clone Wars.
But like, even Dragon Ball Z, I've had so many people try to get me to watch that show, and I'm like,
you trash Dragon Ball Z on my podcast, we're gonna have problems, Jason
I'm not
Robbins.
gonna trash it. It just seems so daunting because it's like there's like 35 years of this stuff. Like Dragon Ball Z started in like 1985 in Japan.
Well, but Dragon Ball Z, not Dragon Ball and not everything after it, just Dragon Ball Z is 9 seasons. So that's just like a good running TV show.
Yeah.
It's also like 260 episodes. So
yeah.
Hey man, don't tell them that, okay?
I will say this. I appreciate you having me on, but Jacob, I got to tell you, Dragon Ball Z is not where to start with anime.
No.
If you are an 8-year-old boy, perfect. It's the best anime. But if you are a man, no.
I didn't say I was a man, Christian. I said I like Dragon Ball Z.
I like it too, but I like it now for nostalgia. So I wouldn't recommend that being a starting
point. If you do have
a
suggestion for somebody like me who has never really watched too much anime, like what would be your suggestion? Like something that's easily, like baby steps, like easily digestible.
So my 2 recs would be 1, Cowboy Bebop, which you may have seen if you've watched.
I've heard
Akira.
A lot of good stuff about that.
It's easily consumable. It's like 20 episodes. It's about space cowboys. So if you like Firefly or you like Han Solo, you're gonna like Cowboy Bebop. If you like jazz music, jazz is a central part of the plot of Cowboy Bebop.
Not doing great with convincing them in that. No one likes jazz music. Come on.
I love jazz music.
Whoa, those are fighting words.
Fighting words from Jacob on the show.
The other one I would recommend, which is a good example of anime just being bizarre and weird, is Assassination Classroom. It is about an evil squid that blows up the moon and will blow up the Earth.
Jason's face. Are you sure?
In 1 year, but in that year he teaches middle school. It's super weird. Yeah. It is the most heartwarming show I've ever watched. Like, it is really, every episode there's like a small lesson, but it's about people being kind and caring while they're meeting their impending doom.
I mean, when your first sentence is an octopus that eats the moon, I'm just like, all right, I'm out.
I'm in. That made me want to watch
great.
it. I want to know where this is streaming. I am in. Go ahead.
I have a rating scale that's personal to me, which is everything is either better or worse than Michael Bay's Transformers. That's the most mediocre thing ever made. And it's definitely better than Transformers. I would absolutely recommend you give Assassination Classroom a chance.
All right. I'll give it a try. Is it on Netflix or
It's on Hulu.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you guys fans of anything that is not particularly nerdy? But you're just fans of I'm
guys, why are you such nerds?
No, because I'm a huge fan of Scrubs. Like, it's one of my favorite TV series of all time. Like, I could probably win trivia, Scrubs trivia. But is there anything like that you guys are fans of?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll go first. I would say the Office and Friends. Actually, I am working my way back through Friends right now. So I don't know what oh, it was the on HBO the like reunion that they
special,
did.
yeah.
I was like, oh, I'll watch that. I love Friends. And then like watching them go back and relive moments of the show, I was like, I had it's probably been like 5 or 6 years since I had watched it all the way through. I was like, oh, I'll start watching it again. And it was like sitting into the most comfortable chair
Yeah.
that you've ever sat in. It was just like this peace. The music started playing, and it was like this peaceful. I had my family was gone. Like I don't know where my kids were. I don't know. I was at home by myself. I was at home by myself. It was like at nighttime.
Where are the kids at?
Myself.
Oh well.
Yeah, I think they were staying with somebody, and my wife was out of town. So I turned it on, and I just sat down on the couch, had my dinner, my drink, and it was just like, everything's right with the world. So Friends for sure, and then The Office is a good one. I've watched it through a couple times, and Friends. I think because of Nick at Night, watching it in high school and college, like over and over and over. Every night I'd sit down and like eat and watch Friends. And
Friends
it just
is one of
keeps
those
running.
shows that I never watched back in the 90s. Like I just was not interested. Like I was a big Seinfeld fan, and I watched things like Seinfeld, The X-Files, things like that. And I just wasn't I never saw an episode of Friends until a few years ago when it was still on Netflix. I was like, I'm going to give it a try just to see what I was missing. I got to about the second season and I just fell off. I don't know.
Really?
It just felt so
Yeah.
dated to me. Like, I guess
Yeah.
because I didn't have that nostalgia for it.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it just really didn't connect with me.
I guess I can say this, like in a way, it probably shaped a lot of my humor because there are moments where, and you're right, it's dated. There's so much about it that's dated, and it's even like references and everything. But I find myself still cracking up laughing at almost every episode, and it's like I think maybe too because now it's been 5, 6, 7 years since I've watched it, and I'm more of an adult, kind of experienced in life, and so I get probably some of the references and some of the jokes I maybe didn't get before.
Yeah.
And so it feels fresh in that way, but it's good. Christian, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, The Office up there. I don't know, man. I consume a lot of nerdy stuff, so it's
Speaking
weird
of
to say
The
something
Office, have you guys listened to that new podcast with Brian Baumgartner, the guy
I
I
that
haven't.
listened
played
to one episode.
Kevin.
Yeah.
His he's got 2 new podcasts now. One was Deep Office Deep Dive, and now he's got another one called just The Office, I think. They're really good. If you're Office fans,
good.
I highly, highly recommend those podcasts. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
No,
you're
you're
good, man. I always appreciate a rec. I also, I mean, I'm a musician, so I like to
Wow.
buy instruments and then pretend I'm going to learn how to play them. So, um, in the last couple of years, I bought a mandolin and a ukulele, and I mean, I can play them okay. So that's probably the other thing I do with my free time is I try to learn something new, as dorky as that sounds.
See, you and
Do
my
that with
dad would
books.
get along great because my dad has been a guitar player since the 60s. And now that
wow.
he's retired, the last couple of years, like he doesn't have anything to spend his money on except for like weird instruments like mandolins and like he literally had a banjo custom made for him that
That's dope.
strung like a guitar. Like he
That's
just had
super
it
dope.
made. I'm like, this is the weirdest thing ever. You play it like a
That's awesome.
guitar, but it sounds like a banjo.
Wow.
Yeah, banjo's next on the list. That'll be one day. Actually, Jason, I know you are. I'm a drummer originally.
Yes.
So I went to school for music, and in college learned how to play piano and learned how to play guitar, and ever since then it's kind of been expanding. So I'm up to about probably 12 instruments that I would say play kind of successfully.
Were you giving Prince a run for his money on how many instruments you can play?
Not that good. Not that good.
That's
Nor
awesome.
that sexy.
Oh, come on, man! You get some assless chaps and some high heels.
That is a
I'd
show
rock
I
it.
would go to. I would go to that show.
You guys put that out as a special YouTube episode.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, do a live episode of Fantastic People,
yeah.
all assless chaps.
That'd be something.
My
Puts
butt
it-
on the screen the whole time.
Yeah.
But what's your favorite genre of music?
Ooh, big question. that's tough, man. I like a lot. I like a lot of genres. I would say it's probably easier for me to choose musicians over genres. I listen to a lot of Dream Theater, a lot of Led Zeppelin. I listen to, talking about jazz, I listen to a Japanese pianist called Hiromi a lot. Yeah, I know, Alison Krauss. I mean, I cover a lot of varieties, but I'm probably more attracted to individual musicians versus whole genres.
You should go back and listen to our episode we did with Leland Sklar. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a bass player that's pretty much on every album you've ever heard since like the late 60s. And talking to him was like talking to a god.
Yeah.
So, it was incredible.
Yeah,
talking to him.
here in Biloxi, he actually has one of his custom double-necked basses at the Hard Rock here in
Awesome.
Biloxi and on
Awesome.
display. Yeah, he's worked with Dolly Parton, Ray Charles, like straight legends just all through his career. He did the A-Team theme song. I freaked out about that.
That's great.
Every theme song you heard in the 80s, he played bass on.
Yeah,
like
Rockford Files,
Yeah.
Greatest American Hero.
That's awesome.
He was on the White Chicks album.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna have to tell me how you get connections like that, because I just want to pick people's brains and hear them tell stories like that.
You know, Christian, it's just, you know,
No,
when
here's
it
what
comes
you
to getting
do.
people on podcasts, I'm kind of the guy around here.
You start a podcast and you kind of fall ass backwards into getting
There you go.
different
There you go.
guests. That's how we
That's
do
the
it.
guy that doesn't get the guests. I work hard, man.
Hey, but you fell ass backwards into it. Don't lie.
And I'm
Yeah,
just
I did it on accident. Whatever, whatever, bro.
I'm happy to be on the list with people like
Yeah.
that.
For sure. I listened to the last 2 or 3 episodes, and I was like, I am totally unqualified to come on here. These are like legitimately
We don't belong
talented
here.
people. And yeah,
Yeah.
I ask people why they watch Star Trek weekly.
Yeah.
So I don't
Regan-
think I've ever asked you, Jacob. Jacob's the youngest one out of all of us. He still can
true.
barely
A baby.
drink. What is your kind of fandom? Not necessarily nerdy stuff, but are you a fan of any weird TV show or something that not a lot of not anybody would think you would be into?
You gotta listen to our upcoming episode of Fantastic People to find out.
That's true. That's true. Hint, hint.
Oh,
I may be on the minute episode.
It's still pretty
I don't know
nerdy.
why I turned into Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
You gotta do the podcast.
First of all, don't say I can barely drink, because I can definitely drink, and I can do pretty well at that. Yeah, man. I'm not going to talk about what our episode's about, but when it comes out, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's obviously I know that. Not really nerdy stuff. I can talk about mixed martial arts, stand-up comedy, Tarantino movies, any of that kind of stuff all day long. Women, I can talk about women all day
Particularly
long.
older. Of
Older.
the gray-haired kind.
Older, my age, doesn't matter, dude. Doesn't matter. Chicken wings.
If they look like Betty White.
Look, dude, I'd do it for the meme, all right? I'd do it for the meme. If you have a shot with Betty White and you
Yikes.
don't take it, it'll hurt you worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's just be real
Oh,
here,
man.
fellas.
So the thing
She takes you.
I was looking back to your guys' first episode. We're almost to a little over exactly a year
Yeah.
Yeah.
since your
yeah.
first episode.
Getting
dropped.
ready to celebrate that, actually. Yep.
So
It's been a wild ride.
how did
been
you
something.
guys come up? Like, did you guys know each other beforehand, or how did you guys get together for the podcast?
We did. Our wives are best friends. And we went to school together in high school. So, but we didn't really know each
Yeah,
other then.
yeah.
Yeah. It's our
We
wives.
knew of each other.
Yeah, we
probably.
knew that when we heard each other's names from our wives, we were like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
oh,
we went
yeah.
to school with that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Christian. The idea originated in your brain. So
Yeah, so of course COVID hit everyone like, terribly hard. I'm not going to say that it was just us or anything. Everyone had equal pains there. And funny enough, talking about Pensacon was the last real thing I did before COVID happened. Like that was like 2 weeks before
Mhm.
shutdown. And it's this really weird thing. I had never been a con person, and I started going like, I don't know, 5 years ago now. But it's this really welcoming environment where everyone, no matter what you're into, everyone's cool with you. So you're just like, oh, we don't like the same thing, but it's awesome that we're at the same place and let's hang out. And that's a great atmosphere to be in. And so that was really fresh in my brain of having all this human interaction and then having no human interaction. So the idea of the podcast was really born out of that. Like, man, I need a way to talk to people, and maybe even people that I don't know. But hey, at this con, I could just talk to a person because they're literally wearing the thing that they're into at this thing. So I can immediately have a conversation with them. And so I thought, well, why not do a podcast about that? Why not just talk to people about the thing that they love? So instead of you wearing, a shirt with Goku on it, I'll just type you an email and you say, I'm really into Goku. And you're like, okay, well, come on, let's talk about Goku. And that's, I came to Reagan, I pitched it to him, and it probably was like a 3 or 4 month process, maybe longer, for us really fine tuning it. And then another 10-month process of doing it before we really, I'd say, nail it.
Figured it out, yeah.
But it's been just really rewarding, I think, to talk to people. One, about things about they're passionate about, but two, people who obviously don't get to talk about that thing a lot. So, like, we had a doctor on who talked about woodworking. And so this guy spends his day helping people. Not one person ever says, what do you do when you go home, doc?
Right.
But we did. And it was a joy, to spend time with people like that.
Yep, 100%. And I think for me, the curiosity got me. Like, who can we talk to? Who can we find in town? What and I kind of am the driver behind, like, trying to connect with business people or local celebrities, or the sort of those unattainables where you're like, okay, people know who they are along the Gulf Coast, but they don't know much about them other than what they've contributed. Maybe the building they built, or the restaurant that everybody loves to go to, or the bar that's like the local place in town but nobody, really gets to know them behind the scenes. And when you ask somebody what they're a fan of and you talk to them about it, they light up and they get excited and they get passionate and they start to tell you a lot about themselves without really realizing that's what they're doing. Right. You ask them about what they do for, like, what their job is, and they're like, oh, boring. Right. And they don't get excited about it. But you find out, oh man, you're into Star Wars. Holy cow. What's your favorite Star Wars? Or when did you watch Star Wars for the first time? And they just go and they'll say, oh, I was at my grandma's house, or I was with my dad, or that was the first movie I ever went to. And it means so much to me because my dad's gone now. And it's like, you didn't ask them any of those questions, but they tell you that information because that's what they're passionate about. And they get excited to talk. And so you get to learn a lot. So I love to find out about people, to learn about people, what makes them tick. I've always been interested in that. And so to have the key to that by just asking, what are you a fan of? And then opening the conversation is it's exciting. It's engaging. And we've connected. There's a lot of people that we have reconnected with that maybe we knew through connections or whatever over the years. And that's been really cool to find out what they're into. And then also we've met people, like, through recommendations of, oh, you should talk to this person. I'm like, I have no idea who that is. I'd love to talk to them. And then people we've stayed connected to through Facebook and through the internet. So it's just been a lot of people in a year, I think. So I think we have 40 episodes live right now. We have a couple we took down for different reasons. And
like,
so
I was telling you the other day, you guys have a very highly produced and very pleasant to listen to podcast. Like, I like listening to your guys' podcast. It's not
starting at your
chaos
episode,
like this is. It's actually produced.
the further back you go, the less polished it gets. But that's the nature of any podcast, I guess.
So what do you think? Why do you think that kind of our generation, like, I'm a late Gen Xer, like, I was born, right when Star Wars hit, up to, millennials and Zoomers. Why do you think that fandom is such a huge thing? Because, like, my dad, the boomers, like the boomer generation, they're not really fans of stuff. Like, my dad likes, like, the Beatles and Rolling Stone, like, music stuff, but when he's not like a big Howdy Doody fan, things like that. Why do you think pop culture and nostalgia is such a force these days?
I'm gonna let Christian answer that because he has a really good answer for it.
Thank you. I literally want to write a book on this subject.
You need
Mason.
to.
I am
You need
so
to.
glad you asked this question because my answer might surprise you. It's 9/11. I think people
Word.
I think millennials especially are nostalgic for a world before the war on terror.
Yes.
And unfortunately for Gen Z, they were born into a world
Mhm.
with the war on terror. And so anything that we relate back to that time is going to, I mean, it's just gold for us. It's freaking catnip. And I think, it's one of the brilliant things about The Matrix. Like, The Matrix, they say this line, how the end of the 20th century was the peak of human civilization. Well, they say that's because that's when The Matrix was made. It was 1999. They had to say that. But that's actually kind of true.
It's true.
Yeah,
Things have been kind of shitty the last
yeah,
20 years.
just a little bit.
Steady
Yeah.
downhill since
Yeah.
The Matrix came
Yeah.
out. Because it was The Matrix and then Columbine, and it was just bad after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I think the internet has a lot to do with that. As good, as
Also
cool
true.
as the internet is, it's also, I think, the downfall of civilization.
It's very toxic in a lot
Yeah.
of places.
yeah, I think anything pre 9/11, and again, I think the internet's a great example too, because I think millennials have arguably, no offense, Jacob, the best relationship with the internet in that we remember a world before
I'm Gen
it.
Z. Go ahead.
We remember a world before it, and this is true for Gen X as well. So we can appreciate the things that it gave us, but we
Mhm.
also can easily recognize the dangers. And I think for some reason, boomers seem real susceptible to the dangers of the internet.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I have
that's
boomer
another huge
parents
part of it.
that we have a real strained relationship these days because Fox News is poison.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's mind poison.
I'm getting paler by the second. I don't know what's happening.
You're
That's all
actually
right.
you're actually dying right now, right?
I don't know. It's like my camera's changing colors on me.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm getting sweatier by the second. Everyone's just seeing me melt on camera like a vanilla ice cream cone. So
But
you're
Christian,
perfectly fine.
Christian, if you write that book, I'm definitely going to buy a copy of it because that
Good,
is a
thank you.
I never thought about that because the world changed, I think,
So
for the worst
drastically.
Yep.
after 9/11. Like things were just so different after 9/11.
Yeah, and we literally just ended like 2 days ago the 20-year war we were fighting after that. If you don't think that affected every part of our society, even the video
Yeah.
games with which we play,
Yeah. Yep.
you are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Call of Duty, man. Biggest franchise ever.
Well,
Yeah,
and
would Call of Duty exist if it weren't, anymore for those things?
Rainbow
or-
Six, but
Would we still be playing in World War II? Like,
yeah. Well, and to kind of go off of that, these fandoms, these things, especially these massive followings like Marvel and Star Wars and maybe anime, things like that, they give us a sense of peace in a lot of weird ways because of that familiarity, that nostalgia, and a lot of the time it comes with lessons too, right? I mean, I know growing up, like I can't tell you how many times I've probably referred back to something that I learned as a kid as like a lesson, and it was from the Spider-Man cartoon.
Well, yeah,
right?
everything had a
or the comics,
because
or
when we were kids, like especially when I was a kid back in the 80s, cartoons like it was government mandated that they had to have some
Right.
sort of public service or like some kind of a learning lesson.
right. That's
Because
right. You're right.
in the early 80s, it was just wild west of, all right, we're going to make a toy line and we're going to make a cartoon about it and just, advertise to these kids. And the
Right.
government had to step in and say, hey, cool it with the, like, if you're going to
Yeah,
do
you're right.
that, put some kind of lesson behind it. Like,
Yeah.
I still like the ending of G.I. Joe cartoons. The down and
they'd stop. Yep.
and one of them comes on and like, don't get inside that refrigerator, you'll die. Like you had to learn something at the end of
the
each
more
episode.
you know.
Yeah, but to that point, I think it's just so ingrained in us and who we are, and it also just happens to be a form of entertainment. And so we are a culture that loves to be entertained as well. And we're a generation that loves to be entertained.
But do you think that's
So-
to our detriment though, because we're not outliving lives? We're actually just
Yeah.
living other
I think
lives through
I think it
entertainment?
can be. I think it can be. And I mean, there's a balance for sure. But I think about this as I get older and I have a family that's growing and responsibilities, a house, and a yard, all these things. Like I do. I drive by I drive by houses of people that are in their like 60s and 70s and 80s. And I lived across the street. We have moved, but I lived across the street from a guy who was retired, and he's in his 80s. He's got to be, him and his wife, just the two of them. Every single morning at like 6 a.m. he's out in his yard pulling weeds. Every single evening he's standing out, kind of being the neighborhood watch. He's not inside watching TV. I'm like, if I'm 80 and I'm retired, you know where I'm going to be? In my lazy boy watching probably Star Wars or some sort of cartoon I grew up on, or playing a video game. Like, I'm not pulling weeds in my yard at 80. But it's a generational thing that these guys, they find that sense of pride and accomplishment, and there's something to that. They're wise people. And then you've got other people like me that, I'll find any excuse to play a video game. And
do you think that
what do we get for that?
do you guys think that our generation doesn't have a whole lot of stuff to actually feel like pride about and things like that? Like, I don't know. I feel like the older Gen Xers and stuff, like from the 60s and, like the boomer parents, they had things to be like, proud of, like life accomplishments that they did, whether it was, like my grandparents' generation, like World War II. My grandpa was a World War II, was in the Army in World War II and was at D-Day. Like he had all these stories and like all these adventures that he was on. And me, I'm just like, I just watched Scrubs for the 9th time.
Yeah.
I think there may be something to that. I mean, certainly, I think I don't want to say times are harder. They're not harder, but it's that
They're just different. They're not
they're
harder.
just
They're
different.
Just different.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, we talk a lot about there's people much smarter than me can talk about the difference between inflation and minimum wage and all that. That's how much easier it was to own a house and a car 50 years ago than it is today, based on the standard livable wage. And I certainly think there's some of that it's just harder to own those things. But I find, I do own a house, and I'm like, I find less pride in mowing my yard than I do sitting watching my Pokemon with my kids. I have more pride doing that than and I think it's just different. I just think it's generationally different.
I agree.
Yeah, even when I owned a house, I was never that guy that would go mow the lawn and then just stand like on the porch with my coffee going, "Yeah, that's my lawn."
I did that.
I'm not that guy.
Yeah, I've done it, but I think about it too. Like, they didn't have that stuff. They didn't. That's what they mowing your lawn was like something that you did because it gave
to
you
escape your wife and kids. That's what you did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you had a push mower, so you could do it slower and not, I see more weeds, I gotta go pull you had to find excuses to decompress. And I think that's what it comes down to. In our episode where we talked with the doctor, a retina specialist, about woodworking, it comes down to an escape, right? And that's what these things are. And finding something to do that gets your mind off of the day-to-day, or gives you a place of your own. That's, sure, we have family, we have wives, kids, whatever, but we still have something that's your own. And I think what we've done in our generations, we've done that with TV, we've done that with games, we've done that with music, we've done that with forms of entertainment where we don't find value in spending 2 hours cutting my grass just so I can cut it in 4 days in the summer. Like, I don't care. But hey, can I watch a TV show and find some value and get a lesson and laugh at the same time, and also sit with my kids and sit with my wife and talk about it afterwards? Like, absolutely. Can I have a show that's just mine? Absolutely. Has my wife read Harry Potter for the 4th time and on her way to the 5th? Yes. And so while she's doing that, I'll do something else, and then we'll come together and we'll do something else together. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's, like I said earlier, it's a balance. Certainly it could be to our detriment. I've thought about that before. I'm like, you know what? I've spent 3 hours a night, 7 nights a week for like 3 months straight watching Netflix. What do I have? What do I actually have that's tangible for that? Right. Not a whole lot of anything.
Well, to kind of jump on that, I think maybe you kind of hit something there that, that we were talking at the beginning about toxic fandom. Maybe that toxic fandom comes from getting too deep
Mhm.
into a certain fandom because you have
Yeah.
nothing else to do.
Balance
or-
it with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
balance it
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, you spend 3 hours a night for 7 nights a week, multiple times in a row in a month. You're going to feel very personal, very connected to that thing.
Yes.
And how dare anybody think differently or change it for you. Right.
Mhm.
But, to go back to talking about the lawns and working on your house or washing your car, whatever that is, I mean, there's a sense of accomplishment for those things. You can, I have no tangible evidence of anything good from watching that much Netflix. But if I will tell you, I learned a lesson. Don't cut your grass so low. Right. I thought that was a life hack. Like, oh, cut it as low as you can. You'll have extra time. But seriously, you cut it high enough and you edge it just right. And you look at it and you're like, that edging looks good. Right. Like, I get it. Okay. I do understand now.
Now you're going to be the guy standing up on the porch with
Yeah,
the coffee going,
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
my lawn.
but to my point, like, I can look at the time I spent doing that and see that there was a result that I accomplished, right? Watching Netflix, once you turn it off and the show's over and that you hit the conclusion, it's like, okay, what now? I guess I'll find another show. And like, I don't know what I got from it, So anyway, it sounds like I'm hating on it, but there's a balance.
No,
think, is the key.
I totally get what you're saying about all that. What do you think, Christian? Do you think that maybe the too much fandom is a bad thing?
Well, I definitely think too much fandom is a bad thing. I do. I think anytime you live in an echo chamber, you're going to have massive problems. And again, talk about the internet being a detriment. It's because people find an echo chamber and they live in it and they stay there. And so they think they're right.
You know what the internet really is, though? Especially with social media, and I've said this before, it's given us a way to read people's minds and know what's going on in people's heads, and it's not a pretty place. Other
you're
people
absolutely right.
think.
Yeah.
The other thing, and I think this goes back to a point you made really, really early on, Jason, you're talking about in the age of binging, not having cliffhangers and stuff like that. I actually think the way we consume media is kind of the problem.
Yeah.
I miss the water cooler talk, the weekly consumption, and this helps balance. This is kind of to Reagan's point. Like if I have a favorite thing, but I'm only consuming it one night a week, I'm still also doing those responsible things where maybe I get a more immediate satisfaction, and I'm still filling that bucket, and I'm going somewhere else. But when I have 900 episodes of One Piece to get through, that's all I'm doing. Yeah.
Well,
I'm not doing anything else.
I think Disney Plus, and we got to start wrapping it up here in a minute, but I think that Disney Plus did a great thing, especially like with The Mandalorian and what they're doing with the new Marvel stuff, piecing it out week by week like it used to be, because I don't think maybe The Mandalorian might not have been as popular as it was if they'd have just dropped it all at once.
Right.
But
it's that water cooler talk.
Yeah, it's that water. Every week we were like, everybody would rush to watch the episode, and then we would just spend the next week talking about it and speculating until the next episode dropped. And then I think there's something to that. Like we got out of that with the binge watching, and I don't think the binge watching thing is good for us. I think the week to week thing actually works best.
Yeah,
totally
I think
agree.
Going back to balance, I do think there's a balance. I like both models. I like having shows that are designed for the binge, that are written as like a extended 4 or 5 hour movie and cut up into pieces so that I don't have to sit and watch it all. But if I do, I can, whatever. And it's very intense driven experience.
Yeah.
But then I do like the water cooler, sort of serial approach where, you get one episode and then you're done, and you get to talk about it and think about it and process it.
That's the fun part about fandom, though, is the talking about it and the speculation and like, what do you think's going to happen? What's your theory?
Well, yeah. And otherwise if you're like, you have some people that will binge the whole thing in one night or 2 nights, and then they're out there blasting the internet talking about it. And then you have people like me with jobs and a family who are like, please don't talk, get off social media, until I can binge all of it because everybody's already seen the whole thing. And so again, with the one episode at a time, it forces us all into the same box where we can spend some time with it before we jump to the next one.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
I think that's
beans.
what were you gonna say, Jacob? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, before we get out of here, I do want to ask our guests, what's your favorite soup?
Good old bowl of chili. Specifically, from
Chili's not soup, Regan. Chili's not
it is.
soup, bro.
It is.
Come on, man.
Well,
Didn't we have
okay,
this
broccoli-
discussion with Compton?
We did. We did
broccoli
have this
cheddar.
discussion.
Broccoli cheddar. I'll say broccoli cheddar soup from
Okay,
from Panera Bread.
that's more respectable.
Oh,
Potato.
That's a good one too.
Ooh,
That's
I
a
like
good
a good potato
Good old
soup from
potato
Outback Steakhouse, boy. You get that potato soup, you're already filled up by the time your steak come out.
O'Charlie's is gone now, but O'Charlie's had bomb potato soup.
They did, and then they changed the recipe. Like, it's probably been 15
I'm sorry,
years now.
wasn't aware you were an O'Charlie's expert. I apologize.
Just saying, it was good until they changed it.
Do you guys consider gumbo a soup?
If chili's
No,
not a
it's
soup,
gumbo.
If chili's not a soup, gumbo's not
There's
a soup.
chili, there's soup, and there's gumbo.
Okay.
Yeah. Gumbo has a roux, right? So
Yeah.
I think
Right.
that pretty much isolates it as its own thing.
Okay. Yeah, because Campbell's does make a canned gumbo soup. So I was wondering, does
But that's getting technical though, because when you buy ramen noodles, it says ramen noodle soup, but you can cook the water out of that MFR and just get some noodles.
true?
I think that's just for Americans. They say they put soup on there so that we
Yeah.
buy it. But Campbell's makes beef stew. This has gotten off the rails.
Yeah.
And there's stew. You're right, there's stew.
It's
Holy
soup.
cow.
All right.
But let's go ahead and start wrapping this thing up. Let's start with Regan. Where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, so I think my Facebook profile is public, so you can just search my name. It's Regan, Regan, and Bell, Bello. And then also on Twitter, that's at Fantastic Reagan. So it's aligned with the podcast. And I think that's it. Yeah. Our website, I'll go ahead and give you that. That's fantasticpeoplepod.com. And we have a Facebook group too, Fantastic People Podcast Hangout on Facebook. So
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. It's Fantastic Jonesy, Fantastic, and then JONESY. On Instagram as well, C_Jones_89. Yeah, and Fantastic People. I will pump my other podcast, Real Phonies. It is a joy, but not family friendly. So probably more inclined for this audience than the Fantastic People audience.
Hell fucking yeah, brother.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where you can find me on the interwebs.
What's your other podcast about, Christian, real quick?
It is 3, sometimes 4 former movie theater managers talking about the movie industry.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
So we all have a love-hate relationship with it, seeing as we loved working at a movie theater, but we hated working at a movie theater.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to check that out, man. And where can people find Real Phonies and Fantastic People as far as podcast platforms?
You can find us anywhere you find your podcast.
Yeah.
Yes. Apple, Spotify, and both have websites. Both podcasts are on both websites, realphonies.com and fantasticpeoplepodcast.com.
Fantastic People
Awesome,
Pod. Fantastic People
Pod.
Pod.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
What about you, Jacob? Before we go, you got any dates you want to throw out there?
Let's see. Oh, I just got off the road, so I don't have too many dates. 9/11, I will be doing a music festival at the Celtic Party Fest. I'm going to be the only comedian, so that's going to be real fucking fun.
Airplane jokes, I hope.
God, dude, I'm staying away from that shit, bro. I am staying far away from that. Not even referencing it. I have 9/11 jokes. Not
Jacob,
doing them on 9/11.
You can't have 9/11 jokes. You were only like a year old when that happened.
Yeah, I know, but for the shock value, I have a couple of 9/11 jokes. And every Tuesday night at the Juke Joint in Ocean Springs, I am your new host of the open mic at the Juke Joint. Anyone can come sign up and do jokes. And yeah, dude, watch Fantastic People. Keep up with it. You can watch Jason's episode, Derek Diamond's episode, Steve Wise's episode. My episode's going to be coming out soon.
I'm
and
not
you guys should get
listening to that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It's kind
It's
of
not. We'll call it a filler episode.
yeah, it's filler. It's yeah. But and you guys should. We talked about this before, but you guys should get Wally Phelps on your podcast because he is a fan of a lot of things.
We will take any recommendations out from y'all's area because our shtick is uncovering the secret fandoms of the Gulf Coast's VIPs. So anywhere along any of those states on the Gulf Coast, we're trying to.
Well, Wally's a very known local comedian. He was also my co-writer on Monsters Anonymous, so he would be a very good addition to the Fantastic People podcast.
Sweet. Awesome.
But well, let me go ahead and play our music and get out of here. Thank you guys again for coming on the show. Always a pleasure talking with you guys. Definitely got to have you back again. And I can't wait to see you guys again at Pensacon this year. Hopefully Delta will fuck right off and we can actually have a good convention this year.
That damn Delta 8, dude.
But if you'd like to email us, you can email us at openmicerspodcast@gmail.com. We're also on TeePublic at teepublic.com/openmicerspodcast. Go get you a soup shirt with Jacob Craig's face on it. And you can also go to our Patreon and support us. Patreon.com/ompodcast. And we will see you guys next week. Awesome.
I like how you did that one, Don Pardo.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching on Twitch and everybody that's going to watch this on YouTube. And we'll see you guys next week.